the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 137 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to celebrate the wonder of professional wrestling. And I'm wondering, as it's kind of a new era, maybe I should mix up that intro. What do you think, John?
Oh, but if you're doing something new, you want some... I just accidentally added a heart reaction to our Skype call. I don't know how I did that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That's how much I love that intro, Adam.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're doing something new, you want a bit of familiarity, just to make people feel a bit settled, a bit homely. You know, not everything's new and crazy.
I agree, and actually, I'd probably struggle to do something new. But so the thing that you're going to do new is just communicate in emojis.
Emojis, yeah, that's going to be
via
my
Skype.
I did read a very good article about emojis and about why they're used and stuff.
Yeah.
It came from chat rooms, I think, in Japan. It's about communicating like sarcasm, a bit more subtlety than just text.
I definitely. There's so many. I used to be a bit against using them. I didn't want to use them, and they already find them annoying. But nowadays, the things you can say with an emoji, you can't say with text. It's true. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway,
this is just some of the new stuff you can see from Hardest Part of the Ring in 2021.
And as you may have guessed, there are just two of us. If you listen to our last episode, 136, it was called The Future of Hardest Part of the Ring. Some people might have skipped that. They might have thought this is self-indulgent twaddle. I'm not listening to that.
It's a big title.
It is. But the main gist of it is that we're sort of switching things up slightly. Don't worry, it's not all going to be two people podcast, but we are... One of the things is that we're taking January off, having a bit of a break. We discussed the fact there are no breaks in wrestling, and we all felt a bit fatigued from 2020, as I'm sure you do as well, listener. But we thought we'd pre-record a couple of episodes. So if anything massive has happened in wrestling in the last week, then it's not because we're ignoring it. It's because we're recording this a week ago.
Yeah.
So... what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of our favourite matches of 2020, which is something we've never actually done in the pod. We always thought about doing like matches of the year episodes, but
I think we lack the authority to say what the best matches of the year are because we're idiots. So these are just our favourite matches. Yeah, we have authority about what our favourite matches are. I think that's
exactly. Right. Yeah, nobody can argue with what your favourite match is.
No,
I can try and persuade you differently, but it's
a lot of Baron
totally
Corbin.
Up to you.
Spoilers.
Oh, don't. That's for the next episode when Brett's on. Yeah, so it's me and John today, and next week you'll get to hear Sam and Brett talk about their favourite matches, and then we'll be back properly in a couple of weeks. It probably won't be an extra, a massively long episode because 2020 wrestling, it was a really weird year, but also it's just a pair of us. But let's see how it goes. We might get carried away and do 3 hours.
Yeah,
like a Joe Rogan episode. So what else is there to do in this early bit? I don't think there is. Should we have a little break and then come back and talk about matches?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh! Back first to the apron goes Andrade Cien Almas.
Okay, so what we've decided to do is each bring to the table 2 matches, and then we're going to kind of go semi-in-depth in them, and they're matches that we all know and love, as in both of us are keen on, and then we're going to chuck out some honourable mentions as well, and then we're going to have a quick look at what ended up being some of our favourite events, because Sam has done some great prep. He's pasted into our running order the stats for our favourite events of 2020, so you've got that to look forward to. But first up, John, do you want to go first with a match from 2020 that you loved?
Yeah, so my first match is actually my favourite match of the whole year. And it's the match that made me realise how much I've missed indie wrestling over this last year. Because mainly we've been watching WWE and a bit of AEW. And obviously because, the independents haven't really been going. So my match is Ilya Dragunov versus Volta from NXT UK, 29th of October this year.
Yeah, and it's not even a pay-per-view.
Nope, it was just on their weekly show. They just recently came back from the whole COVID shutdown. And I think this was meant to be a takeover main event, but obviously they're not doing takeovers, so they just whacked it into their weekly show. And it's something they've been building to for ages and ages on that show. And it just blew me away. Like I remember I logged into the network to watch something else, maybe the Halloween Havoc from NXT.
Yeah.
special. And they had the sort of banner ad for this, and I was like, oh my god, I'm totally going to watch that. And it just blew my socks off. One of the most violent matches I have ever seen. Blood and guts, and really fast. Like the whole match starts really quickly. They're completely chopping each other, just running around the ring. What I really love about it as well is like Dragunov really fronts up to Walter. Like he trades chops with him back and forth. He does that bit, where Walter ties him up in the rope and does the chop.
Yeah.
Ilya reverses it and does the same to Walter, and they're both like, their chests and backs are just like chopped meat. There's that crazy spot where the Dragunov snaps his head on to the rope and then smacks it onto the ring. And there
are a lot of welts, aren't there? We're big fans of welts.
Oh my god, yeah.
Dragunov gets a lot of welts on his body.
Yeah, because he's so pale and so muscular as well. I really love Ilya Dragunov. I remember when he first came over to the UK, like when he first debuted for Progress, there was so much hype about him. He was like this big deal because he was kind of a bit of an unknown superstar coming over. Like everyone heard lots of stuff about him from his time in Germany, and he came over and he never quite reached those sort of hype, that peak of that hype. But they've been building up really well in NXT UK, and they seem to trust him a lot with these big matches. Because he's done matches with some of the stars from WWE and stuff like Finn Balor. He had a match with Finn Balor, didn't he? I think. And
was that at the Takeover? Was it? No, don't know.
But yeah, he's so strong as well. Like he was lifting Walter and doing Germans all left, right, and centre on this, and just the impact of Walter hitting the mat after a German is just insane.
Yeah, I remember because I think Dragunov did have a really great run of matches with Cara Noir in Progress.
Oh yeah,
but that was at the time when I was done with Progress, and I think a lot of people were, and or just weren't really watching. And I kept on thinking, oh man, I should watch those matches because they're going to be dead good. And I still hear people talking about, though, I think it was like a trilogy of matches that they had. They'll be good with Cara Noir involved. But yeah, it was. I really enjoyed the fact that this was just like I've seen a lot of people who've said this is their match of the year, and I remember listening to some other podcasts when this match happened. People who hate WWE and really hate NXT UK, who were just like, "This is my match of the year." What an incredible match! And I think a lot of them commented on the fact that it was mainly because it was not a WWE match.
Exactly,
it was nothing like a WWE match.
And I have to say, fair play to WWE throughout this whole year. I mean, it's been up and down, but they have tried to vary their content quite a lot. They've done a lot of cinematic matches, like the Money in the Bank stuff was really cool. They have tried to do new and different things, but it's still presented in that traditional WWE way. It's the same old people winning and nothing new really happens. But I just haven't seen a match like this all year, like this violent and this real. It just felt so visceral and oh god, I love this match.
No crowd, obviously, so you could hear everything properly, like all the connections. I remember saying at the time that I wasn't a fan of the comms. Even Nigel McGuinness, I didn't even really enjoy in this, and I'm a big fan of his. But that's literally the only negative I have from the whole experience. It was so cool. And who would have thought at the start of the year that you'd be saying match of the year from NXT UK?
Yeah. Although we'll get into that later.
AEW's resurgence. It's not really a resurgence, is it? Anyway, we will get onto stuff like that later. I'm with you there. I think that it would. I can't remember if I rated that as my match of the year, but it's definitely up there.
Cool. What about you, Adam? What's your first one?
My first one, and again, you could probably say similar to me. Who would have thought that one of my matches of the year would be a match that involves the Young Bucks? Considering my history with the Young Bucks, I've gone for the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page at AEW Revolution. Which was all the way back on the 29th of February 2020. So this was before lockdown. I think people were kind of aware that there was this virus going around, and oh dear, that sounds a bit rough over there in China. Oh dear. Just after my birthday, the last time I went out with my mates was, I think, almost the same weekend as Revolution happened for my birthday, and I haven't done anything since. Oh God. But
yeah, my birthday's in a couple of weeks. It's going to be grim.
It's going to be so grim. Sorry. I I picked a Young Bucks match, and basically, I'm sure people will remember this. It did get rave reviews a lot. I mean, obviously, the talent involved, you know it's going to be a good match with the talent, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, and the Young Bucks. But a huge thing about this was the storytelling and the amount of narrative that there was going into it, but also the narrative that they kept going out of it. So it could be easy to have a big pay-per-view, the big blow-off, and then that's it, and they go separate ways or anything. But obviously the big thing here was the fact that you know, it looked as if Hangman was going to be turning on Kenny Omega, and you severely expected that by the end of this match that was going to happen. And even at the end of the match, it looked very close, as if Hangman was going to do his buckshot lariat on Kenny, and he didn't. And there's all sorts of other amazing things within the match that I can go into, but that was one of my favourite things about it. The fact that they left you wanting more and you wanted to carry on, like definitely tune in to Dynamite to see what Hangman was going to be doing next. Tune into Being the Elite if you're that way inclined. I don't think I did actually, but and just know that, just be delighted that the feud was going to continue and that narrative within that tag team was going to continue. But also you had like a real like dastardly side to the Young Bucks, which we have seen quite a lot of actually, and we've seen it in some other matches, but particularly Matt being like a bit of a shit in this match, spitting and just being a full-on heel really. It was just really cool from a narrative point of view. And then obviously there were just loads of great moves. I think there was one point where and there were crowds, so let's not forget there were crowds involved. So there's one point where there was I think Kenny did like back-to-back V-triggers, and there was a 1 count, and that got such a massive pop. Do you remember pops?
It used to be my favourite thing in wrestling.
I know.
I used to send my brother just like the greatest Stone Cold pops, just when his music crashed, just that instant noise is just sends electric, you know, it sends a hand back in the back.
And actually, we just did an episode, which you would have heard last week, as we mentioned about, you know, tough watching wrestling. Didn't even mention the fact that we've had the whole, like most of the year without a crowd, which does make such a big difference, or did initially. I know we've got used to it.
I still think it does. Like, I think a big part of why I feel a bit jaded with WWE is the fact there are no crowds, because wrestling is kind of like a two-way communication between the wrestlers and the crowd. Like, the crowd are so intrinsically part of the performance. They're about selling what they're doing, about putting it over and making you feel what's happening is real. And with the whole fake crowd noise, it just feels really artificial and cheap, and it just doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, WWE now with their fake noise is just horrendous. I think I'd rather go back to the silence, or like what they had in the NXT UK match. I mean, obviously AEW is great because they've got a crowd of some sort. I mean, they shouldn't, probably.
No, it's a lot better though. It is
a lot better, and especially using the talent to get involved as well. I don't know, but I mean, it's mad to think that this is one of the only matches we're going to be talking about here that actually was in front of a crowd. But yeah, there were quite a few moments where we had the big moves, like the buckshot lariat did happen in the match, and a V trigger and the Bucks kicking out, and again massive pops. And I think, if I'm right, there was a bit towards the end where Kenny was struggling to get to do the one-winged angel, but Hangman did it. Do you remember that?
I missed this pay-per-view and I haven't watched it in a long time.
Oh, you haven't watched this match? Oh,
I had watched it, but it was a long time ago and I haven't rewatched it. This was the only pay-per-view review I missed this year, apparently.
Well, God, I mean, to be honest with you, I was planning on going back and watching this match, and then it's just been an absolute shitstorm. We're recording this the day after the next lockdown has been announced, so yeah, there's plenty of excuses. I should have made the time. I should have found the time, but the key thing for me is that everybody was expecting that implosion between Omega and Hangman. And it's almost like, you know, the smart, you're like, yeah, this is coming. They're going to break up, and it's going to be great, and I'm looking forward to it. And then they sort of give you the little swerve, and it doesn't happen, and you're like, oh my God, you naughty AEW. I thought you were going to do this, but you didn't, and I love it.
They are so good at telling those stories in the ring, but also not giving it away completely in like 3 weeks, like doing the whole story in the 3. Like, they're really good at the sort of long-term storytelling, and the Hangman Page turn against Kenny, that's been going on, it feels like, for a year. Like, they've really dragged that out. And maybe the part of that is to do with the pandemic. They wanted to do it in front of a crowd potentially. But it still worked. Like, it kept you going back for more and more and more. I love their dynamic, like Kenny and Hangman. Like, he's a drinker, he's not. It's just, I love that.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised when I was going through my list, and luckily I've got ratings in Grapple, the Grapple app, which I use to sort of record. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I did love this match. And then checking my notes back, it's like, oh my God, yeah, this was a phenomenal match. And Young Bucks featuring in my favourites. Who would have thought it?
I know this is our favourite matches, but this is easily in the top 5 best matches of this year, hands down. No one can dispute that. It was an incredible match, fast paced, hard hitting, great storytelling. It had everything.
Yeah. So, what's your next one, John?
So, my next one is also, I was looking back at my favourite matches, and pretty much all of them happened in October, weirdly. So, my next one is Sasha Banks versus Bayley at Hell in a Cell, 25th of October.
Is this just a memory thing?
Might be. I'm not going to lie, it might be. I have got some stuff from further back, but I just loved this match. Just because,
I loved it too.
Like, Bayley and Sasha for me have been the MVPs of WWE over this last year, especially Bayley, I'd have to say. Like, when she first turned heel, I think we were all a bit like, oof, I'm not sure how this is going to work. But over the last year, and maybe having a crowd has really helped her, because you can hear her giving Michael Cole loads of shit.
Definitely, that's helped her, yeah.
Yeah, but so this was the blow-off. So obviously, Bayley turned on Sasha after they lost the belts to Nia and Shayna. I can't remember what pay-per-view that was, but they lost the belts. And Bayley attacked Sasha, and we get to see my favourite thing in wrestling, which is a wrestler in a neck brace.
Yeah, that's a callback to a very early episode.
And so eventually Sasha comes back. They sign a contract for Hell in the Cell for the championship. And on this pay-per-view, there was 3 Hell in the Cell matches, and this was by far the best. I think it is a classic Hell in a Cell match. They use the cell really well. They do loads of really cool, innovative stuff with kendo sticks. Bayley gives the referee loads of shit and tries to get him to help him do duct tape. Like, there's that cool spot quite early on where Bayley's pinned against the cell and with a table, and Sasha runs up the table with a Meteora.
Yes.
There's so much cool stuff. And it ends really brutally as well, like bank statement with the chair. Like, Sasha Banks using the chair as the bank statement, and she's stamping on Bayley's head as she's tapping out. It is beautiful, this match. I just think it's a great blow-off for this feud that they've been teasing for years and years and years. Another great match between these two, and a great Hell in a Cell match. I loved it.
Do you think the fact that we've had lockdown and you haven't been able to go out for your usual like bender on a Saturday night, where you would sometimes at the end of the night see a woman stamping on another woman's head, you've just had that
maybe
urge, and that's perhaps why you saw it so?
Yeah, Western Road has been very quiet, you know. It's not the
it's
same
just
now.
Funny
The
when you're like,
closed.
she stamped on her head, and I just loved it.
It was just so brutal, and like, I just love a bit of the ultra violence, you know.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I remember the sunset flip that that Bayley did when Sasha went into the propped up chair, and as we've always said, like, Sasha gets ragdolled around the place because she's so little, but her limbs are sort of long, and it must be so light and easy to chuck around. Everything looks so brutal, but yeah, I mean, some of the stuff they were doing, I think there were a lot of moments where I was like mouth agape, like fucking hell, that must have hurt. And I remember Brett talking about the bit with the tape where Bayley was sort of trying to tape up
she's
the
too
sticks.
sweaty.
And anybody else, in a way, if that had happened, it wouldn't have worked. But it kind of worked with her character, and she ends up giving up. But
it also features one of the spots of the year where, just at the start of the match, where the cage is lowering, Bayley's got the chair, her role model chair, and Sasha drop kicks it, and it flies out just under the Hell in the Cell as it lowers. Just the timing of it was so perfect.
Yeah. I remember it being so innovative, as you said, and I love matches like that where it's just go throughout.
Yeah.
And and because it really, when you think about that feud, there were lots of times where we were like, are they going to do this or aren't they? And moments where perhaps they should have called it earlier and actually had this match. But I think, waiting to do it in the cell. I think Sam had an issue at the end. He was like, did this have to happen in the cell? Was that for this match or was that for the Roman? I think that was a Roman match, actually.
Yeah, maybe. I think I did criticise it because this was their first match. This is their first match against each other, really, in this feud.
Yeah.
It was straight in the cell. But I suppose,
one of your matches of the year. So
yeah, worked.
Had the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that was cool. Because that was really surprising because they shot that really well. You didn't see her getting the fire extinguisher; just came out of nowhere with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I suppose that's actually one of the things we could say about the stuff with no crowds is that a lot of the stuff where they're grabbing a prop, or especially when there's a run in, or if there's a Randy Orton wearing a hoodie, there's no crowd reacting to it. So then it can be a big shock to the viewer because they just appear on screen. Whereas if somebody runs down the ramp, you see the whole crowd turn to face them. Oh God, I'd still want a crowd back though.
Right,
cool.
Adam, what's your last one?
My last one is just looking. Yeah, so we're doing 75% WWE matches here. We've done a main roster. We've done an NXT UK. I'm going to chuck in an NXT Classic, NXT Original.
Original joint.
It was an NXT match. Yeah. It happened at NXT TakeOver 31, and it was on the 4th of October. Great month.
It was a great... honestly, you'll see in a bit, it was a great month.
I went for Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly, the NXT Championship match that they had, because it was fucking great. Because it was the best Finn Balor match we've seen in, well, probably since he was last in NXT. It may be ever in WWE.
Yeah,
not ever.
When I rewatched this, I was trying to think about great Finn Balor matches. And he had a feud with Samoa Joe just before he left. Yes. And it was just as I was starting to watch NXT which was sensational. But it was so long ago that I don't remember if it was better than this.
Yeah, and I know we all love Joe, but we all love Kyle O'Reilly more.
We do.
Because he is, and in fact, I could probably copy and paste what I said when we reviewed this pay-per-view about Kyle O'Reilly, because he's just one of my absolute perfect dream wrestlers, because he's got everything he can do. He's funny. When he walks down to the ring, he's funny. The way he moves in and out the ring, when he's selling, when he's giving the offense, when he's on the mat, when he's actually doing strikes and stuff, everything he does is just absolutely perfect. His facial expressions, the way he falls out of the ring. And this match was so great because right from the start, they just had some beautiful chain wrestling, which you just knew was going to happen. And it was brilliant. And you had cocky Finn Balor mocking O'Reilly with the air guitar.
Talking shit, all sorts.
Talking shit, yeah, exactly. And I remember it's quite early on they had the double underhook suplexes, which just looked brutal. And obviously, what always helps is a legit injury. When
is a broken jaw too much though?
Well, he carried on, so I'm assuming.
Could you imagine carrying on?
I mean, every so often I do a yawn and my jaw clicks when I'm shut, and I'm like, oh fuck, is it? And I'm like terrified. The idea of a broken jaw is awful.
And then going up to the top turnbuckle and delivering a coup de grace.
Yeah,
and going in for the pin, it is hardcore.
Yeah, and he had the bloodied mouth, and as we've always said, a little bit of blood can help a match.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle O'Reilly had blood as well. I think he had blood in his mouth.
Yeah,
because there was that kick to his midriff quite early on.
Yes,
that looked very legit. Because the way he sold that was the best thing I've ever seen in a wrestling match, or he legit kicked him and it winded him because he needed to take a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
it was so hard hitting.
Would you say pints and pints and pints of blood like Dustin Rhodes is too much blood? It's all I ever think
that's
of now.
That's too much blood. That was
horrendous.
So much blood.
And then the other thing we talked about, Dragunov. He's a welty boy. He's a pale boy. He gets lots of welts. Finn Balor's the king of that, right? The pale Irish skin. Whenever he gets any strikes anywhere, he's welting up and he's getting the red marks and he's getting blood. And his eyes always look like they're stinging and red, and he just looks like he's been through the mill. But actually, they both legit had been through the mill in this match. We had the dragon screws, and again, like all of this was without a crowd, but it was such an engaging match throughout that it just didn't matter. And
yeah, you don't notice, do you, at all, that there's no crowd actually?
No, And I absolutely, I loved it. They battered each other in this match.
Yeah, they've taken absolutely bit. What I really love about it is that I've seen Kyle O'Reilly in these sort of matches before, and other people in NXT in these sort of matches, like Pete Dunne, Gargano, Ciampa, Cole, in these sort of really hard hitting matches.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen Finn Balor's New Japan stuff, but I've never seen Finn Balor in this sort of stiff match. But he just took it and gave it as well. I was so impressed with that. Someone who's been on the main roster, he was Universal Champion, coming back down to NXT and taking a fucking beating.
Yeah, and again, if you tell me in January I'm picking a Finn Balor match for one of the matches of the year, you'd just be like, really? What a shit year it must be.
Yeah.
But superb.
Great match. I really enjoyed rewatching that match. I think it was even better than I remember. That match. It was superb.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch it again. Anyway, listeners, go back and listen. Oh, no, don't listen to it. Watch it. And then listen to our review of NXT TakeOver 31. Okay, should we do some honourable mentions?
Shall we carry on with October, because it was an amazing month?
Oh my God, if we could do month by month, that would be pretty professional, but we're not
that would be way too much work for us. So in October, NXT did the Halloween Havoc special, which was probably my favourite wrestling show of the entire year. And on that wrestling show was a match between Candice LeRae and Io Shirai, they've had numerous matches this year, which have all been great, but they had a tables, ladders and scares match for the championship, and it was brilliant and really brutal. These two know each other so well, got such great chemistry, and it was just a fantastic match. Really good.
Nice. Yeah, I think I watched that. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, there was some interesting. I remember what was the match with Johnny Gargano, or was it that match actually or they had the spinning wheel?
Yes, Shotzi Blackheart was doing the spinning wheel,
and you're just like, how have they done this? Have they just filmed them spinning that wheel 25 times until they've got?
Oh yeah, fake.
Because they can't have actually have just been like, let's see what happens. Who knows?
But they're also on that card was Gargano versus Damian Priest. Damian Priest is probably one of the wrestlers of the year, actually. He's come on so far since the start of the year. And that was also another great match.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
He's had a great... Come on, how far has he come? He's amazing.
One of the top 100 wrestlers of the year,
harsh.
If I had to pick... Oh, have you got any other October ones you want to
No, I think those are the only October ones. Yeah, those are the only October ones.
I wanted to give a big shout out to the Stadium Stampede from Double or Nothing back in April or May, I think it was. I know it was the 23rd of May. I'm looking at the date here and I couldn't remember which month the 5th month of the year was. But it was the 23rd of May. And of course, that was the Elite and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle. That was so much fun. It had its critics. But if you remember all the different spots they did in that Jacksonville Jaguars stadium.
Yeah, I remember Sammy Guevara. I love him. He was very funny, being chased by carts and all sorts, and Hangman in the bar.
Yeah, the stuff in the pool.
Oh yeah, with Matt Hardy.
Holding Matt Hardy under the water and being like, ask him, ref, ask him. Obviously, all the Jericho stuff with the tackling the massive. What do they call them? The mascot.
Oh yeah.
It was just. Again, like some people would say, that's just the epitome of everything they hate about wrestling. But when you've got that level of talent, not only at wrestling, but also, the charisma and all the comedy stuff and, these, like Chris Jericho, anything that Chris Jericho's done this year, well, maybe a couple of exceptions, but he's had an incredible year. And this was one of those matches that really stood out as something completely wild, completely different, and people thinking out of the box when it comes to how can we entertain people rather than having just a load of straight matches in front of no fans. Yeah,
I love this match. It was really fun. Definitely what we needed at the time as well.
Yeah. Also, another match that is, again, something completely different. I don't know if we're going to end up mentioning any of the other cinematic matches.
Oh.
But in the last week, did you watch this in the end? The Brit Rest version?
Yeah, I watched it today.
So this is You Are Cordially Invited, which was put together by Charles Crowley, who's not somebody that we've seen much of. Basically, we used to go to Riptide quite a lot.
When I first saw him in this, I thought it was Chuck Mambo had a haircut. I was like, is that Chuck Mambo had a haircut?
I actually thought he looks loads like Cara Noir.
Oh, yeah,
is that Cara Noir's face? No, he wouldn't have played this character, I don't think. But anyway, for anybody who's not aware, all the BritRes fans listening, I'm sure will be. But yeah, Charles Crowley put together this cinematic wrestling match, but featuring people from BritRes, and it had some great talent in there. Session Moth Martina, Mad Kurt, Chuck Mambo, Big T, Kid Lycos.
Yep.
And it was, I thought it could have been awful. And I was worried about what the production values would be like, considering what we've seen the likes of AEW and WWE do with their budgets. Because I don't think there's any promotion that's funding this. You're cordially invited. It was so much fun.
Really good.
It looked really good, and there were a lot of really funny bits.
I definitely recommend go checking it out. It's been a rough year for BitRes, and hopefully this is a sign that 2021 is going to be a lot better.
Yeah, got me excited to see some of those wrestlers again. Especially
it made me really, really miss Riptide. I was like, God.
Anyway, I think if you just Google "You Are Cordially Invited," it's a 20-minute YouTube video that you can check out. Any others that you want to mention? Yeah,
I want to mention, this is way back at WrestleMania, I think at night 1, Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. Such a great match. Rhea Ripley actually gets like the Riptide really early on, but Charlotte kicks out and then just absolutely destroys Rhea's knee throughout the match. I still think they made the wrong decision. I think they should have strapped the rocket to Rhea Ripley in here, put her over Charlotte, call up to the main roster, have a champion in NXT and champ on the main roster. Why not? Fuck it. She's amazing. They didn't, but it was still an amazing match, and it was one of those matches like it was such a big match for Rhea Ripley. It was such a shame there's no crowd there. And it's back in the day they didn't even have like talent around the ring or fake noise. It was just those two in the ring screaming at each other. Yeah,
that was brilliant. I remember absolutely loving that. I remember saying, and I thought about this the other day with Rhea Ripley, because obviously now, she's still having great matches and things, but she's not in the limelight as much as she was when she was involved in the War Games from last year, and then she was in Survivor Series. And then to cap that all off, she was supposed to be performing at that massive stadium at WrestleMania with Charlotte. It's just to then be in that empty performance center, but they still had such a great match. Definitely a worthy shout. We haven't mentioned any New Japan, and I know the other guys will cover that.
We watched Wrestle Kingdom last year, but that is the only New Japan I've watched this year.
Ibushi Okada, Night 2 main event. Absolutely brilliant. I can't really remember what happened, but I know that I loved it. Anything else that we'd like to mention?
Okay, a couple of quick ones. Pac versus Omega from Dynamite in February 26th. It was the 30-minute Iron Man match. Probably one of the best TV matches I've ever seen. That was insane. I also, because I remember really liking it at the time, I went back and rewatched Orton versus Edge in the greatest wrestling match of all time at Backlash.
Okay.
And it was a good match, but it wasn't as good as I remember.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you were going to say, and I can confirm it was the greatest wrestling match.
It was a good match, but it was not. I don't think it's worth going back to rewatch. And finally, I just think we should briefly mention the two matches between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso at Clash of Champions and Hell in the Cell. Now, I understand a lot of people don't like these matches because they're quite slow and ploddy, but I think it's some of the best storytelling I've ever seen WWE do.
Usually we would then jump on you and take the piss for your hyperbole.
Yeah.
Hyperbole even. That's not hyperbole. That's just how I read it in my head when it's written down. But I'm on board. And this may be the reason why it's us two on this pod and not the other two, so they can't shit on our thoughts. Love everything they're doing with Roman, and it's the only reason, and obviously Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. It's the only reason why part of me's like, I do want to keep doing every WWE pay-per-view next year. That's probably a good place to end because those have been some pretty recent matches. I just wanted to mention Keith Lee versus Dijakovic, those matches.
Oh my God, yes. God, they had like 3 or 4 matches, didn't they? Just insane.
And that feels like years ago.
It does, yeah.
Okay. Before we go then, we are going to have a quick look at this stuff. You know, Sam's done the homework. We may as well have a little look. But he's basically gone into our spreadsheet of pay-per-view ratings and put together our top 3 favourite events of 2020 according to our scores. John, what were your favourites? Were they all in October?
One was in November, so that was Full Gear, and I gave that a 9. Then all the way back, I completely forgot about this pay-per-view until Sam showed us this, was NXT TakeOver Blackpool.
Oh shit, yeah. Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin was on that. That was a great match.
Pippa Niven, Kaylee Ray, and was it Tony Storm? And that they had a great match. And obviously Walter versus Joe Coffey. We hate Joe Coffey, so I don't know how I gave that 9, but that must have been a great match.
Yeah, because it was with Walter. We were pleasantly surprised. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my highest rating pay-per-view of last year was Wrestle Kingdom, which gave 9.52.
And that was on the 8th of January, so that's a shame.
January last year was hot. Like, the Rumble was good, TakeOver Blackpool was good, Wrestle Kingdom was great.
But that basically, the highest score you gave was the first pay-per-view of the year.
Yep.
So it was literally
probably still hung over from New Year's, wasn't they? That's probably what happened there.
My 3, all on the same level, all got 9 out of 10. TakeOver Blackpool and Full Gear, so we agreed on those. And then my next was NXT TakeOver Portland, which
did that have the Cole Ciampa match?
It wouldn't be an episode of The Hardest Part of the Ring without a little bit of googling. Some people would do this before the pod, but I'm going to do it right now so I can tell you what the matches were. So one of them was Keith Lee Dijakovic, so that helps. Yeah. We had Dakota Kai versus Tegan Nox in a street fight.
Oh, that was great, that
Absolutely battered each other. Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano. Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. And then you had the Broserweights versus the Undisputed Era. And then finally Cole versus Ciampa.
Yeah, that was a killer pay-per-view, that one.
And I think that was one where I think we sort of all agreed that Cole versus Ciampa had it's like, okay, I think we need to calm down on these epic matches now. And to be fair, they haven't done something of that sort of style for a while. But for me, I remember it was all about that Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox and the Keith Lee Dijakovic match. Cool. Okay. There we go. Turned out all right, 2020, in terms of wrestling in many ways.
There was some really good stuff out there. There was some really cool stuff.
Cool. Well, if you want to hear some other people's opinions, if you think John and I are the worst pair on the podcast, then you're in luck, because next week your favourite two are up. It's Sam and Brett. They're going to be talking about their matches of 2020, and if you like a bit of New Japan, I know they're definitely going to be talking about some of their matches then. So tune in next week. That is also a pre-recorded episode, but it's going to feel as fresh as a daisy. And then we'll be back early Feb, I think. Until next week. If people want to get in touch, do you want to do this, John?
Yeah, I'd love to. This will be my chance to shine. You can email us at hardestpartofthering@gmail.com or on the socials at hardestpartpod.
Nailed it. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll speak to you soon. It's goodbye, John.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. That was The Hardest Part of the Ring.